Tommy Boyd, we'll go to Steve, who calls from Harlow next. Steve, hi, welcome to talkSPORT.
Hello, Tommy.
Hi.
I remember you from years ago when you was in your Magpie days, and I just wondered what you'd do with the guy that recently, in a men's magazine, admitted to be one of the Blue Peter Garden vandals.
Nothing?
No?
No, I don't have anything strong on that. Do you?
No?
Do you?
I remember it being a very big point in my life at the time, being about 8, and Percy throwing his arms up in the air at what had happened. No?
No, not me, really. Maybe I'm different, maybe I'm funny, but no, it doesn't really get me going one way or the other.
You didn't think it was one of these secrets that would never ever come out, no?
No. We had a garden. I wasn't bothered about it, really. I hated it if I was told I was doing the garden on the show. Oh,
yeah, me
God.
too, yeah.
No, on the show, on Magpie.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, I think probably vandalising the Blue Peter Garden wasn't such a bad idea, really. I mean, you know.
I tuned in just at the tail end of the lady caller that was saying about smacking children.
Yes.
I'm after your opinion, actually. I've got 4 very personality-filled young children, eldest being 6, who are all very good kids, but they get to the point where they do push you. And what do you do in that instance?
What do you mean, what do you do? What do you do in that instance?
As the lady
I think we know what you're talking about here. What you do is, first of all, you do not assault them.
No, I agree with that. What the lady was saying, she was saying she gets to the point where she wants to give them a smack. As a child, I was never smacked. I was an only child. But I can understand what she was saying when you get fault to that point. Where
what do you mean they push you?
Well, I suppose children just test you, don't they? They test how far they can go with parents.
Well, no, they don't. Mine don't.
You don't think? Well, that's in your situation, but I'm sure a lot of other children do. But what would you do if your children did push you to that point?
There's no question of that ever happening.
Why is that?
Because it won't happen. They won't do it. They couldn't do it to me. They wouldn't have. They've got no reason to do it. I couldn't possibly imagine them happening it. In as much as they will never fly unaided, they will also never do that. Push me to the point where it won't happen. Why does it happen to you?
I don't know. I suppose you get to that point where the rubbing Vaseline in the carpet and things like that, and you
rubbing Vaseline into the carpet.
It's happened.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about rubbing Vaseline into the carpet. All right.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
Well, it's not a major problem, I suppose, but when...
Did they know that rubbing Vaseline into the carpet is not something that you favour?
Well, look, yes, that's what I'm saying. That you get to the point when sometimes children get to the point where they want to test parents.
No, what you're saying is, if they were testing you, then necessarily they knew that you would not be pleased about having Vaseline rubbed into the carpet. But how do you know that they knew that? How do they know that you wouldn't be pleased? After all, they'd seen you rubbing Vaseline into lots of things, presumably.
No.
Well, how did they know there was any Vaseline? Where was the Vaseline? Was it their Vaseline? Did you give them Vaseline?
No.
Did they get Vaseline for Christmas?
No.
Well, how did they get their hands on Vaseline?
Well, yesterday it was shampoo.
Now, how did they get their hands on Vaseline?
Well, I said yesterday it was shampoo.
No, I'm asking a question because you raised Vaseline in the carpet and you said it's an actual incident. So go on. How did they get their hands on your Vaseline? Where was it?
In the bathroom. In a cupboard in the bathroom.
Out?
No, in a cupboard in the bathroom.
Yeah, accessible to them.
Yeah, I think you've made your point, but...
well, I'll stick with my point. I'll stick with my point because we have to go on concrete things. You're not going to get an answer from anybody if you say, what do you do when your children test you? That's not specific enough. I don't think your children were testing you when they rubbed Vaseline into the carpet. I'm worried if you think that they were. Children experiment. They want to see what happens.
I think sometimes children do things to provoke a reaction.
No, definitely not. No, they don't.
Think so?
No, they don't know enough to do that. They're exploring the world. It's an extraordinary Aladdin's cave of so many things. They want to feel things, touch things, try things out. They want to be like you. They want that more than anything else, to be like you.
put it a different way. If you found yourself in the previous caller's shoes, when she said she was at the end of her tether or whatever, and she felt like she had to give her children a smack, what would you do in that situation?
But it doesn't happen, my friend. I can't imagine it. And it shouldn't have happened to her. It shows that she can't control the way that she feels and thinks. Anybody who claims that they are in that situation are unable to control the way they think and feel. And I don't know what they're doing having children then, because it's such a responsible job to take on that a person really does need to be able to know how to drive that car before they drive off in one.
Oh, I agree. I think it's probably one of the biggest jobs that you can take on.
And so many people take it on without a moment's thought.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Your children rub Vaseline into the carpet. That is your fault. You don't like it. That is your fault. The only person who deserves to be upbraided for that is you, for allowing your children access to an adult substance like petroleum jelly. You shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have been out for them to get their hands on. And if they rubbed it into the carpet, it's your problem, it's your fault.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I'm not saying that I was in a position where I smacked them, because I didn't.
No.
But I'm just saying, if you found yourself in your previous caller's shoes, where she was, if you found yourself feeling at the end of your tether, what would you have done? You must have times when you feel at the end of your tether.
You've asked me this question before, and I've answered it. It's not a question I can answer, in as much as it would never happen. If somebody behaves in a way that I wish they didn't, then the first thing I have to look at is why I wanted them to behave that way anyway. And how realistic it was for me to expect them to behave as I wanted to, when, as is usually the case, I hadn't given them any indication of what behaviour I would have preferred. And we're very bad at giving a... Let me give you a... When I trained as a teacher, I was told this story, all right? A little girl, aged 3, spilt the contents of their parents' ashtray on the floor and got into trouble, and was told that if she ever spilt the contents of an ashtray again, she'd be in big trouble. Whereupon a couple of days later the child spilt the contents of the ashtray, and the parents thought that they were quite right in punishing the child because the child was clearly disobedient. Now, what do you see that's wrong with that story?
I think that's totally wrong.
Why?
What, to chastise a child for spilling the parents' out? Exactly the point that you made about the Vaseline, to be perfectly honest.
Well, but they told the child not to mess with ashtrays.
Bring it around full circle, they shouldn't have left the ashtray in a position where the child could have had it, should they?
Now, the point about the story is this. They hadn't told the child what an ashtray was. They assumed that the child would know the word ashtray because everybody knows the word ashtray, but not when you're 3, you don't.
Sure.
Not when you're 3, you don't. What the child worked out was that the thing that the child had done wrong was to mess around with that big green thing. Well, the ashtray that the child spilt 2 days later was blue, so it can't be the same thing, can it?
Sure.
Yeah, our children have to be spoken to with enormous patience and with enormous care to the vocabulary that we use, never mind about the concepts that we use, which we often don't understand ourselves.
It's a difficult job.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? And all of us.
It's an enjoyable but very difficult job.
Do you know, the best parents, I always say, are the ones who think that they must be getting it wrong. They're the ones who are good.
I've heard you say that actually on your show before.
It's very true. It's very, very true. Keep up the good work.
I will try to.
Good man. Nice fellow.